Every day, millions of people walk through these doors. They order a burger, grab some fries, maybe a cold drink, and continue with their day. To them, it's just another fast food restaurant. But to Nuvo, something felt different. He had explored countless businesses before, uncovering the stories hidden beneath their success. Yet standing outside McDonald's, he couldn't shake the feeling that this place was hiding something much bigger than burgers. With his notebook in hand, Nuvo stepped inside. The restaurant was alive. Families laughed together. Children smiled as they waited for their meals. Employees moved quickly behind the counter. Everything seemed ordinary, almost too ordinary. A friendly employee handed Nuvo a fresh burger. It looked perfect, warm, fresh off the grill. Simple. Nuvo smiled. He took his first bite. Delicious. Exactly what millions of people enjoyed every single day. But then, something happened. The restaurant around him seemed to fade into the background. The sounds grew quieter. Time itself felt slower. Nuvo looked down at the burger in his hands. Tiny golden sparks began dancing across the bun. At first, he thought he was imagining it. The glow became brighter. The sparks circled faster and faster. Golden streams of light spiraled around him, carrying fragments of another time. The light slowly settled. Nuvo looked around. The modern restaurant was gone. Standing before him was a much smaller building. Simple, modest, nothing like the McDonald's people recognize today. Old American cars rolled slowly into the parking lot. Families gathered outside. Children pointed excitedly toward the entrance. The sign was familiar, yet everything else felt decades older. Without realizing it, Nuvo had traveled back to the beginning. Curious, he walked closer. Customers patiently lined up outside. No flashy advertisements, no giant menu, no endless choices. Just people waiting for something that seemed surprisingly ordinary. But if this tiny restaurant would one day become one of the biggest brands on earth, there had to be a reason. Nuvo opened his notebook. This time, he wasn't here as a customer. He was here as an investigator. Stepping inside, he carefully observed every corner of the restaurant. The kitchen wasn't chaotic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't filled with confusion. Instead, every movement looked perfectly timed. Every employee knew exactly where to stand, exactly what to do. Nobody bumped into one another. Nobody wasted a single motion. One cook focused only on grilling burgers. Another prepared buns. Another handled fries. Another assembled each order, like pieces of a machine, working together with incredible precision. The more Nuvo watched, the more one question echoed in his mind. If this system was so effective, why wasn't every restaurant doing the same thing? The answer arrived sooner than he expected. A well-dressed traveling salesman quietly stepped into the restaurant. Unlike everyone else, he wasn't distracted by the smell of fresh burgers. He wasn't impressed by the crowded dining room. He wasn't even looking at the food. Instead, his eyes followed the people, the kitchen, the workflow, every tiny detail. Nuvo noticed it immediately. This man wasn't seeing a restaurant. He was seeing an idea. As employees moved with perfect rhythm, the salesman continued observing in complete silence. Every order reached the customer in moments. Every worker repeated the same movements with remarkable precision. Nothing felt random. Nothing felt wasted. Nuvo glanced at his notebook. He had written one word: system. The salesman eventually stepped outside, but instead of leaving, he turned around one more time and looked back at the restaurant. Not with excitement, but with curiosity. Almost as if he had just discovered something nobody else had noticed. That single look, would eventually change business history. Days passed. The idea refused to leave his mind. Back at his office, maps covered the desk. Small restaurant models were carefully placed across different towns and cities. Nuvo stood beside him, quietly watching every decision. The question was no longer, does this restaurant work? The question had become, could this work everywhere? One location became 2, 2 became 5, 5 became 10. Every new marker represented another possibility, another community, another family, another chance to repeat the same successful system. But expansion wasn't simply about building more restaurants. Choosing the wrong place could mean failure. Choosing the right place could change everything. Nuvo slowly began to understand. Success wasn't created by luck. It was created by careful decisions, made one location at a time. As more possibilities appeared across the map, the vision became larger. Small towns, busy highways, growing neighborhoods. The dream was no longer a single restaurant. It was an entire network, a system capable of serving millions of people, without losing what made the original restaurant special. For the first time, Nuvo realized something important. The burgers had started the story, but they were no longer the most interesting part. The real story was only just beginning. What began as a single successful restaurant slowly became something much bigger. New locations opened, more families arrived, more communities welcomed the familiar experience. No matter where people visited, they found the same quality, the same speed, the same process, the same reliability. One restaurant became several, several became dozens, then hundreds. Highways connected cities, cities connected communities. And before long, a simple idea had spread across an entire nation. Standing on a nearby hill, Nuvo watched as more restaurants appeared across the landscape. Each new location represented more than another place to buy a burger. It represented another successful copy of the very same system. As the years passed, the world around Nuvo began changing once again. Vintage cars slowly became modern vehicles. Old buildings transformed into the cities we recognize today. The small restaurant evolved into the familiar McDonald's seen across the world. History had caught up with the present. Nuvo stood quietly across the street. People hurried inside without giving the building much thought. Children laughed, friends shared meals, workers grabbed lunch before returning to work. To everyone else, it was simply another McDonald's. But Nuvo smiled, because now he knew the story hidden behind those golden arches. He gently closed his notebook. Some businesses become successful because they create a great product. Others become successful because they build a great system. The greatest businesses manage to do both. Nuvo looked at the restaurant one last time, then turned and continued walking toward his next adventure. Because every company, every invention, every global brand has a story waiting to be discovered. I'm Nuvo, and this is Nuvo's Vault. I'll see you in the next story.